we've been doing this since the start of lockdown, and we're just in a way to support our clubs and to be able to help them get through this and navigate through this period. So thank you very much for making the time. I know this kind of time we've moved from our 3 o'clock in the afternoon and to 6:30 in the evening, and so it's the second one tonight in the evening. So thank you very much for that. What I will do before we kind of introduce Mildy, who you guys have all come to hear from, I'll just get Lynette to have a few words and yeah, just to give us an update in general.
Yeah, thanks, Javid. Before I start, I'm really keen to know who's here. So I can see a few. So I wonder if we can just go around, and I'll just call your name out on my screen so that everybody knows who's here. So we'll start with you, Joe, if that's okay. Just who you are and where you're from. What your role is, maybe.
I'm Joe. I'm from Oratia Football. I don't have one role as such. I'm the secretary, do the media stuff, do 7th and 8th grade and first kicks, and look after the kitchen.
Oh, that's just a few jobs there.
Yeah.
How about you, Deepika from Sport Waitakere?
Like Lynette said, I'm Deepika. I'm the Community Access Scheme Project Manager. So I enable school facilities open to the community after hours, and that includes bike tracks and facilities and swimming pools, as well as look after our sports awards at Sport Waitakere and Kiwi Sport.
Cool, thanks. And Kate? Hi, Kate.
Hi. I'm from Suburbs Newlyn Cricket Club. I'm the chairperson there, but I'm also a trustee for the Ken Maunder Park Trust, which administers those fields. So we have a bit of crossover with Lynn Avon football as well.
Cool, thanks, Kate. Zach?
Kia ora. I'm from Waitakere Water Polo again, a few different hats, secretary, media, trying to do some sponsorship stuff as well.
Oh, good. Amber.
Kia ora koutou. So I work with Sport Waitakere. I'm the Faux Kiwi Sport Activator, so primarily working with schools in the Faux region, and just during this time been doing a bit of work with the clubs as well.
Thanks, Amber. Fran? She's gone to get a cup of tea. Come back to you. Cynthia?
Oh, hi, I'm Cynthia from Kohimarama Bowling Club. I've been sitting on a few of the Waitakere sessions, so thank you for opening these up to outsiders.
There's no outsiders when it's sport and rec. Everybody, we're all part of the same team. Here, Fran's back. Cup of tea, Fran?
Didn't realise I'd muted, sorry.
It's all right.
Secretary of Waitakere Bears softball, but had a long history with sport at Massey High. So just finding these meetings really helpful, and it's great to get to know faces and other people around in the community.
Yeah, thanks, Fran. And Mildy, we'll let you do your thing in a minute if it's okay with you.
Oh.
So I just wanted to touch base and say hello to everybody and thank you for attending again tonight. And talking to Joe, but I hope you're all excited about beginning of sport and you're all prepared with your contact tracing and hygiene and all that sort of things that we need to put in place. But as Joe says, sounds like we might be into level 1 and as early as next week. So who knows, that would be awesome. Now that we are about to go to level 1, I want to thank you for your attendance, and some of you have been here to quite a few of them. And I hope that they have been useful, and thank you for that comment, Fran, because I want to really acknowledge our awesome team. There's Javid, Deepika and Amber on tonight, but there's others behind the scene that have worked really hard to, we had to shift really quickly and respond quickly, and hopefully that we've been able to help you and do things that will be most useful for you. But I don't know, Javid, if you're going to talk about this, but I think this is a really good thing to keep going on. And Fran, you actually did that bit of segue, didn't you? But, you know, how can we keep this going? What topics would be the most useful? Again, probably the timing, what time's best now that everybody's back on the fields or whatever it is. So we'd have to do that quite carefully. But, I'm really keen to see our sports clubs strengthen, obviously, and the leaders coming together so that we can really have some really good conversations. So, Mildy, I'm looking forward to tonight, and in this current climate, any tips that we've got to look after our sponsors is, going to be most helpful. And in fact, during the support local phase, everybody started to talk, we need to support local. We discussed, how can we actually spotlight our sponsors that have really helped the sport and rec sector, because, man, they've put a lot of time into our clubs and a lot of money into our clubs. They might be little, but, they're coming on year after year, a few $1,000s here, but boy, it does make a difference. So how can we spotlight some of these sponsors? So we've actually decided that we'll highlight them. So we want to write up stories and we'll share them. We'll put them on Facebook and on our website. We're going to probably have our own page, I think, around that. So if you've got any sponsors or good stories or long-term sponsors or anything like that, and we'd be happy to show them off for you, and then it would be really good. So just get hold of one of us and we can kind of link in our comms people to come and have a chat. So it's awesome. So thank you very much. And Javid, I'll hand it back to you and look forward to hearing what you have to say, Mildy. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for that, Lynette. I guess, Lynette's touched on it, and we've all seen the news in terms of what's going to happen in terms of Class 4 gaming, and it's up to people have said up to 50% is going to decrease, and we're yet to see what the real outcomes are. But in this climate, it's really important that we support our sponsors and those that are really valuable to our clubs, and they've helped us, whether they've put shirts on a team's back or they've just made sure that you can continue running. So sponsorship is one of the one of my interests as well. So I guess to give you a bit of a background, back in 2016, I reached out, late 2015, I reached out to Mildy when she was the sponsorship manager at Barfoot and Thompson. I was a frazzled master's student who was looking for someone to take part in my research, someone who had sponsored multiple elite teams, and I emailed Mildy, and she's like, "Yeah, we're keen." I had so many phone calls, and people said no, or they just didn't come back to me. So Mildy really helped me with that, and we worked on that, and then from there, as part of that role, she worked with the sponsorship for the Starship Foundation, World Masters Games in 2017, Auckland Rugby, Blues. Barfoot and Thompson also sponsored the Referees Association, which I'm part of. And from there now, she's kind of segued into doing her own thing, and she runs her own consultancy and works, specializes in sponsorship. So without saying a bit more, I'll leave it to you, Mildy, and you can take it away.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me at such an awkward time of the night. I'm sorry for interrupting your dinners. I'm going to share my screen pretty much immediately, and let's get into it. And did that work, Javid? No, not yet. Right, we're on. Cool. Okay. So really, you don't need to know much more about me. I run my own sponsorship consulting agency. I'm all about people. Everything I do is always just about how I can make things better or easier for people. And sponsorship is very much about that. It is about taking the money from a company, which is also people, and using it in the best possible way for your people to make sure there's maximum impact and to just make things better, which is often why you need sponsorship money, is just to add that cherry on the cake. The last 12 weeks, though, was just surreal. Not just, we all know why it's been surreal, but for sponsorship, it's just put such a spanner in the works, because what is going to happen? How do we act now? Do we ask for money? Don't we ask for money? And I'm hoping I can answer some of those questions for you tonight, and I'll try and give you a few ideas just on what I've seen and what I think you should be doing at the moment. I certainly never thought I'll have to do a webinar locally in Auckland. I love presenting on stage and being front and center, and here I am just basically staring at myself, which is slightly awkward. And you can stare at me too. Now, the main thing with our lovely friend COVID-19 is that we're all in the same storm. And I attended a session on that an American guy presented last week, and he reminded us at the start that every single person in the world is actually going through this at the moment. And we tend to forget that. You kind of, when lockdown was announced, you kind of just immediately huddled in and just went, oh, my family and how do I cope? But really, in our lifetime, we've never seen anything in the world where all of us was going through such a surreal thing, and everyone in the whole world's asking the same questions. And I'd like to see it as a storm, because a storm always has different facets, and some parts of the storm is lighter than others, and some other eye of the storm that's horrible, and at some point you can see a rainbow. And I think New Zealand's definitely at the point where we are seeing the rainbow. I also think how you cope with the storm is how big and bright your umbrella is, and a lot of that is not just how good your government is, which we've been very lucky to have an exceptional leader in place. It's also how you cope with it personally and how you stay positive. And I'm sure a lot of you would have had to pass this on to your teams and to your staff. And it's a lot of pressure to, to be the bright, bubbly person. But ultimately, trying to stay optimistic in these times is really what it's all about. So just keep remembering every one of us is going through this. The main thing also is that everyone copes differently, and you might come across some of your sponsors when you talk to them that absolutely isn't coping. They might be completely stressed or completely anxious, and you'll be talking to other people that just thought lockdown was the best thing ever to their life and to their kids' life. So when you have conversations with your sponsors, just always remember that everyone is dealing with this differently, even though we are going through the same storm, and some people are not coping with it. And the economic impact and the stress of staff retention and all that is certainly going to be weighing very heavily on their minds. So my recommendation for you, and the one thing I would like you to take from tonight, is really the concept of how can you help them? Because normally with sponsors, we're very much about them helping us. They give us money. In an ideal situation, your sponsor will activate and you can see them doing something physically with your audience, where at the moment, none of that is happening. So you all being in sports can really contribute to the whole mental well-being and the health concepts. You've got the tools to do that. So why not flip the coin and go to your sponsors and say, you know what can I do to help you? It could be something that's different from your day-to-day activities, or it could be something that complements what you're already doing. You've got your sports starting up next week now that level 1's been announced, and it sounds like we're pretty much going back to normal aside from the border closures. And I think, even just in that, there might be some gold in there while you can start functioning in a more normal space. The main thing, of course, with sponsorship is that you need money. You want money, that's why you've got the sponsors. I guess with sports, you don't so much rely on the in-kind sponsorships where people give you products. Surely you'll be getting some of that as well. But the main thing is you want money. Now is not the time to ask for money. Don't do it. It's just not the right time. What I've seen from my clients and from research I've done is that companies are holding on to their purses, or their wallets. They're not spending. They are trying their best to retain their staff and to retain normality in the workplace, to keep business as usual. So they are not going to spend money on a rugby team or a soccer team unless they've already agreed to do so. It's different if you've already got an agreement in place. I haven't come across companies exiting sponsorships yet. I don't think in New Zealand we're there yet. I think companies are trying to do what they can to keep things in place as much as it is at the moment. I'm hoping companies won't walk away too much. And so far, even, with the Blues and the Warriors, the bigger teams, the Mystics, we haven't seen sponsors walk away. Some sponsors have gone quiet though. So it does mean that they're not really activating and they're not as involved with spreading the message, because obviously they've got other messages that at the moment is more important, but the money is still in place. However, my recommendation is don't ask for new money. Unless, however, what we've seen with some sponsors is they have given money if there's a charitable component around COVID-19. So if your club is going to do something specifically for homeless people that's increased in your area around homeless or around COVID-19, or people that's lost their jobs, maybe you want to start a networking group on your club premises just for people to have coffee once a week if they've lost their job. That kind of thing seems to be okay for companies if they can feel that they've actually made this whole terrible time we're in better by contributing to something aiding the COVID-19 crisis, then it's different. If your charity, unfortunately, if you are a charity and you've got nothing to do with COVID-19, we've seen some charities struggling to get their normal funds in from donors and philanthropists, because there's definitely been a sway of, let's see where my money can make a difference to the storm that we're in. So if you can find a link to that storm, don't force it, but sure, that's where you can ask for money. The flip side is also that if your sponsor already has a charity, you could potentially say to them, can I help you? Say it's Barfoot and Thompson and Starship's their main charity. Say to them, is there anything I can do as my football club to help you and your sponsorship? It could be that they just need food parcels packed and you might get staff ready to help pack food parcels. It could be something really little, but there might be a way to just keep asking how you can help. So everything I'm saying tonight is going back to how can I help, touching base with your sponsors regularly, and touch base to show you care. Don't touch base to ask for money. They really want to see right now that you're also human and that you understand that they are human. And right now, their priorities, unfortunately, is not you. Their priorities is their staff and just trying to get things back to normal. It will change, but for the next few months, we'll just have to ride it out. So a few random ideas on how you can do good and what you can do at the moment is use your resources. You guys have more resources sometimes that I think you give yourself credit for. You've obviously got your sports people. Maybe if you have a real estate company as one of your sponsors, do you say to them, look, I know it's a little bit harder right now. Do you need some of our sports people once a month to help hand out flyers, for instance? Normally they pay people to do that. Is it something that you say to your sports team, do a community job? It's a community outreach and you give it back to your sponsor. I know it sounds silly, but once your sponsor's up and running again and have money in their pockets again, such a small gesture that saved them $40 now could result in $2,000 for you later when you are ready to ask and when they have funds again. So see what you can do to help them, how you can utilize your staff. Is it something that you simply just say to the community, hey, we'll use our premises. If you've got old blankets or canned food, bring it to us. We'll give it to the SPCA or to the City Mission. It could be something just as small as that, just have a bin and just say, look, we've picked the SPCA as our charity of choice. Bring us things. This is what they need. And just be seen to be doing good right now. This kind of thing also gives you a story to tell. So it also makes you relevant. So if you find something to do that is good in your community, you can say this on social media. You can talk to the media about it. It gives you some story to tell other than just we're a sport and we're struggling and we need money. You can say we're a sport and you know what, yes, we're struggling as well as everyone else, but we are doing good with all those extra resources we've got right now. It could also be something small that aids wellness and mental wellness, and maybe just say to your staff, hey, once a week at 7 o'clock in the morning, we're going to walk and invite the community along. The first week it might be 5 people walking and the next week it might be 20. Eventually you might need to split your walking group into 5 groups a week. And who knows, eventually you could even be making money from that down the track. So be seen to, as a health organization, being sports, and you're all about, promoting health and well-being and being sporty, find maybe a link to that. And maybe if you're the water polo team, is there something you can do at a local school and say, hey, we'll pick a school a month and show them how to play water polo and just showcase your sport for free. So be seen doing good and doing it for free. And who knows, it might aid the growth of your sport. And again, just having a story to tell. And then one day you can go to your sponsor and say, you know what, in that time, we've grown our database and let's rock and roll together now. Now, I've touched on this. Your partners are struggling too, not just financially. They're humans too. They are going through restructures at the moment. So many companies are going through restructures. Every time I log on to LinkedIn, someone's lost a job or has been structured out. Right now, just be there for them. Just check in. Don't go, oh, I can't talk to them. They're obviously going through a tough time. They need to hear from you. They need to know you're okay, but you need to find out if they're okay. So simply just touch base with them, pick up the phone, do something as modern as pick up the phone and say, hey, how are you? Just those 3 words, how are you? don't make it about money or about your professional relationship. Just ask them how they are as a company, how their business is doing right now, but also how the human that is your contact is dealing with this all, and listen to what they say. You might get to know something about them that down the track could benefit you, or you might just strengthen your relationship and just really come out of this a lot stronger. See what you can offer your partner. So I've talked about, the idea of possibly volunteering for them or helping them. But is it something, the food show recently obviously cancelled the food show that was meant to happen in May. And they did this really cool thing. They went out to all their partners and said, hey guys, I know you would have been at the food show and you were going to offer discounts to sell more products. So do you want to give us those discounts? We'll put it on our website and shout it from the roofs for free, and you might still get sales from it. This is something you can do too. You might have a partner, let's say Westie Pies is your partner. Do they give you a discount if people buy their products maybe in the next 2 weeks? This gives you something to talk to your database around that they would love to hear because they get cheaper food. And it also gives your sponsor, which is Westie Pies, the benefit of selling more pies. So it's a win-win for both. So see if there's even those little things that you can do for a change to make it easier for them. Now, if you have contracts in place, I don't know how formal you do sponsorship contracts at your level, but if you do have those, talk to your partners about your benefits. Obviously, the benefits would have been signed off. So you might say once a year, I'll give you the chance to talk on my Facebook channel and you get 2 Twitter posts or tweets from me and 1 Insta post. But obviously, with it being this lockdown period and we've lost this 12 weeks here, all of us, you can't deliver on all the benefits you've promised. Go to them and explain what on the contract you can deliver still and what you can't. And then say to them, look, what can I do to make up for it? Is it that I give you 2 more Facebook posts right now? I don't know. I need to kind of see your contracts to really know what you can promise them. But what I'm trying to say is don't be rigid on your contracts right now. Try to just be a bit more lenient and see what you can do to accommodate the fact that you were unable to give them all the benefits they've agreed to, especially if your season for your sport have started so much later. And talk to all your sponsors. And this is an individual conversation because Westie Pies might go, you know what, I don't want an extra Facebook page. I want my poster up in your club rooms. And my 10 might go, I don't care about my poster. I want 10 tickets to your gala dinner at the end of the year. They all want different things. They all get benefits from different things. So talk to them and try to understand what it is that you can do right now in your contract to make it better for them. Admitting that right now there's benefits that you can't deliver on will, when you get to renegotiate next season, put you in a really good position because they'll go, you know what, this guy came to me and said, right now we can't deliver on this, but let's see what we can do. This guy gets it. He gets that I'm human and I was struggling. All these things, it sounds very little, but yeah, I talked to a few sports people lately and they just said their sponsors haven't been in touch. You're in a position where you can be in touch, and honestly, the long-term change that this will bring will be very good for you. Now, in a world where we never have enough hours, and this, unfortunately, this bit I did before level 1 was kind of announced today, so you're very soon going to run out of time again. But until you do, use this extra time you have right now and use it to your advantage. So is it that maybe your website was due for an upgrade or an update 4 years ago and you've been meaning to do it, you just didn't have time to update the copy or even just to update your sponsors' logos on there? Do that. Clean up your database so that you can communicate more effectively with these people. The time at the moment is your friend and you should use it well to do these things and to communicate better, maybe even do surveys with your database and understand them better, because if you understand your people better and your sports people better, that gives you more to talk to your sponsor about, and you can then say, look, this is exactly who my audience is. It's kids between 5 and 11 and they're mostly boys and they love dinosaurs and they love soccer. Or I don't know, you can segment it a bit better. It's the kind of thing you should do often, but you never really have the time to do. So maybe in the next few days, if it's at all possible, see if you can get a Survey Monkey type of thing out and make it fun, and maybe see if one of your sponsors will give you, I don't know, so let's say Westie Pies again, let's use Stefan for everything. see if he'll give you 8 pies to give away, and say to people, if you answer the survey, there'll be a lucky draw, and give them an incentive, because that will give Stefan his promotion for Westie Pies, because you'll say we're giving away Westie Pies, so he gets something for it. And just try and understand your audience better while you've got the time now, and while they've got the time. I fear next week when Wednesday and Thursday arrives, we'll all forget about these 12 weeks where we had so much time on our hands. It's going to be back to normal. I always say to my friends, I don't quite think New Zealand was in lockdown quite long enough to make it permanent changes for us. I've already seen people aren't quite as friendly when I go for my walks as they were when it was complete lockdown, and that's just sad. But that's just the reality of life, really. And life goes on, especially here in New Zealand. We're very fortunate that we can bounce back the way we have. Now, aside from checking in on your sponsors and asking them how they're doing, let them know how you're doing and what you're working on. Let them know that next week the year 8s will start practicing rugby again, or whatever. And why not take them for a coffee again, now that you've got time, before it runs out and before they lose time. But even if you don't have time, this is the kind of thing you need to make time for, is at least once every 6 months, have a face-to-face coffee or a wine or whatever it is that you like with your corporate sponsor. Most of the cases you'll find the corporate sponsor will pay, but if not, you'll just have to shout. That will be the cost of a coffee for you. But just have these conversations, see how they are, check in. There's no harm done in having a personal relationship with your sponsor. It will be a good thing. Now, a quick note, I was going to remove this slide and then I decided I'll just throw it in very quickly. Don't use COVID-19 as an excuse for everything. It's starting to become a habit out there. Even when Bauer Media closed down a week after lockdown, they blamed COVID-19. And if you think about it, it's not really possible a week after lockdown that a massive magazine group can go down 4 days after the country lockdown. Don't blame COVID-19 willy-nilly. Sure, there's going to be changes to be made, and sure, COVID-19 will be to blame, but it's not to blame for everything. So be honest and be transparent, and don't just use the excuse whenever you can. Now, predictions, I think this is the part you're all here for tonight, to just find out what the hell's going to happen. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I am an optimist. So I'd like to think by October, we'll be reasonably back to normal in the sponsorship field. I think the next few months will be hard. There's going to be more job losses to come, especially around events and just the whole tourism sector, and that impacts events as well while people can't travel. But I think by October, even if the borders are still closed, we'll start seeing people normalizing and going, you know what, I've worked it out. We've moved on with some staff had pay cuts. Now we're good to start spending again. I think events in New Zealand, and even little events, will become better and better organized. Not saying they're bad at the moment. We've got some fantastic events, but we can't bring international people in. And I think often we rely on the international contingent to make it good. We don't have that. We're not going to have that for another 12 or 18 months. And I think that will force people to get creative in how they draw in the crowd. So one of the first events we'll see where they're going to probably try this, and it will be interesting to watch, will be Diwali, the big Indian festival in October. That will be one of the first big open public events where normally they bring in amazing international performers, and this year they won't be able to. And I think all that will mean is that New Zealand will just step up. We're just going to find our local talent, and they're going to do it well. And you're going to find that your sponsors, when they do choose to activate and leverage a partnership, they are going to do it well. They're not just going to waste their time and money. People will have very clear objectives, what they're trying to achieve and why they are trying to get people to events. It's not just going to be events for events' sake and activation for activation's sake. I think we're going to see that people are going to get a lot smarter and deliver a lot more quality events and quality activations when they do. What will this mean for you in the long run? It means that things will eventually get better. And once they do, if you do some of these tips I've given you and just check in with your partners and just try to have heads down and do what you can right now, you will flourish. If right now you just check in and you're just honest with your partners and say, you know what, it's hard, but I know it's hard for everyone and we'll all get away through it, they will love you for it. So be authentic, be transparent, keep communicating with them. You can't communicate too much with your people. Don't have a coffee every week. Have a coffee once every 6 months or once every 3 months, but in between, flick them a text or flick them an email and just say, hey, how are you holding up? How's things getting along? Don't force the money issue. It's not about that at the moment. It's really just being about human. And never forget the power of simply just saying, how are you? It might even spark a great idea if they give you an honest answer. So that is me. That was a very rushed overview of where I think things are at. I do have an offer for you to thank you for your time tonight. I'm hoping later July I'll be able to do a proper workshop and not a very rushed, very fast 20-minute spiel of what I think is happening in the world out there. I am doing a sponsorship 101 workshop. This will be a very straightforward sponsorship workshop, probably 4 to 5 hours, going quite in depth on what sponsorship is, how you put together contracts, how you approach sponsors, all those kind of things that you need to know when you work in sponsorship world. If you've been in sponsorship world for some time, you might find it boring, and eventually there'll be an advanced course. But if you are interested, I need to practice my content and my workshop on someone. So if you are interested in attending that, it will be free for you. I'll probably open it up for about 10 people or so. So because you made the effort of signing up tonight and joining me, feel free, if you are interested, on just emailing me, and I will let you know once it's happening and where it's happening and all those things, and then you can learn with me together. And there's my Instagram account if you want to see what I'm up to socially. I'll quickly, if I've got 2 more minutes, tell you about my cheer project, just because I'm very proud of it. During lockdown, I didn't cope with lockdown very well. I love people. I love being out and about and seeing people and talking to people. And I kind of just sat here and went, what do I have to do now? I've lost a lot of clients and a lot of projects were postponed. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to kill. I hope you've got my email. I'm going to shut this down now. And then you can see me. There we go. It's not the end of the world. Life goes on, but I needed to find a reason to feel that I've got purpose in life, because I love making people happy and I love feeling that I can contribute to society and that I'm connected with people. So I started the Cheer project that you can follow on Instagram. Basically what I did is, for the whole period of lockdown, for 7 weeks, I put a joke up, 8 jokes in Meadowbank where I live. And I had a little 4-kilometer trail, and people, to see all 8 jokes, had to walk the 4 kilometers because so many people was out and about walking. But this gave me a purpose. Every morning I got up at 7 because my audience is waiting to see their jokes. And it really gave me a reason to just get up and to make other people happy. And from that, I've had such good feedback. So I'm hoping in the next few weeks, I can take my cheer project further and do something that on a more permanent basis will help me spread some happiness to people, because I really think a smile is quite powerful. So if you want to see some really corny dad jokes, follow Cheer Project and watch the space. So thank you for having me. That's me.
Thank you, Mildy. That was really insightful, and I saw the Cheer Project come up on Instagram, and I had a bit of a chuckle with a couple of them. So thank you for that. What I really got from what you were just saying is being, as clubs and organisations, we just have to be a little bit more vulnerable in this space and just be, open and just be like, hey, this is where we're at. How are you doing? And just kind of have that, that chat. But I have a few questions, but before that, I'll open it up to the floor and see if anyone else has a question. So just unmute yourself and fire away, and we can grill Mildy for a little bit.
I've got a question. It's probably more so for when we're out of this cycle, right? So like you say, sort of October, November. Do you have any amazing tips for identifying and cold calling new sponsors, or is it like a law of averages?
Look, the main thing is to find a link with that sponsor. You need to understand what you are trying to achieve, but you need to understand what your sponsors are trying to achieve. And I think what I've seen in your field of more local sports clubs is often the sports clubs go too big. You tend to go, oh, Buffett and Thompson sponsors are blue, they should sponsor me. But you need to go smaller and see who in your community is doing what and who wants to be reached out to. And it might be that it's a local Buffett and Thompson branch, but keep it local, and because they're the people that really want to connect with your audience, and you are really powerful in terms of your local audience that you can connect to. So I think see and start keeping an eye on it now, because some people will be doing marketing right now to try and be more aggressive to get the business in, and keep an eye on who the local movers and shakers are and what they are doing. And when you connect with them, have your story ready and have that local piece ready and have your database segmented so that you can say to them, these are the people we can talk to and this is what we can do. So it's really just, yeah, building those relationships, and never underestimate the power of LinkedIn. So if you see in your local paper or on Neighbourly or wherever local stories are nowadays, if you see someone's name pop up that's quite a local mover and shaker, connect with them on LinkedIn and just say, hey, I'm in the community too. It will be interesting to catch up. 99% of the time people accept your connection, and just stay in touch with them until the time's ready, and then good luck to you.
That's great. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for that. Anyone else? All right, I'll put one out there, Mildy, and this is something that I've come across being part of sports clubs and stuff, is we generally offer sponsors, a spot on our playing top, or we, embroider their logo on a training top. What is there something that, that is cost effective that we could do potentially better in that space, rather than potentially adding an extra cost to have a logo on a shirt?
Oh, look, I think in local sports that logo actually goes a long way. It could be, I think sometimes the smaller clubs make the mistake of absorbing that cost yourself, where if you're an organization, you can actually pass that back to the sponsor, and you should have that conversation. So with World Masters Games, for instance, we produced something ridiculous, like I think it was something like 12 kilometers of banner mesh that we had to produce as part of our agreement to go around the various stadiums and things. That was a cost that Barfoot and Thompson had to absorb. It wasn't an agreement that will get the access to the banner mesh, but it was still up to us to deliver that at our cost for the World Masters Games event. So I think, first of all, try not to always absorb that cost of the logos. The other thing is, of course, try not to have too many logos on the shirts to begin with, but then that means you might need to up your cost to have fewer logos on, because if there's too many logos on, they just don't stand out. But unfortunately, I think for sports clubs, that is still one of your most powerful tools, because it is a walking billboard. But then you could do little things like have car magnets with the sponsor's message on some cars, not all cars, but some of the cars. And yeah, there's various ways you can get the brand out. And I think you need to work with the sponsor on what it is they're trying to achieve. It might be a sponsor that does not need the brand awareness and don't actually need to be on the shirt. They might just want to be seen doing good in the community, and they might be happy if you, instead of the shirt, give them more social posts. I mean, of course, it depends how active your social platform is. So it's kind of you need to see what all your assets are and really understand your assets. But I think when it comes to printing shirts and things, try and pass the cost back to your corporate, or at least split the cost to make it cheaper for you.
Cool, that's nice. Anyone else? Yeah.
It's really hard to, when you're really busy or you're a volunteer, to look after your sponsor and, make sure that, you're ringing them up or you're going to visit them or whatever it is. Is that unrealistic for like small organisations or sports clubs to be able to do that? Or is there, do sponsors for a sports club, do they just think, look, I'm just giving away this money and I don't really want much from it?
Look, I think it depends on the value. I always appreciated knowing what's happening, even for the smaller sponsorships. Sometimes it might mean that you don't have time to, because maybe you have 20 small sponsors, you don't have time to get to them all. It's just that's the crude reality of it all. There's just not enough time. But is it that twice a year you have a sponsorship get together and you put on morning tea or just wine for your sponsors to mix and mingle, and you give them a communal update? I used to personally love those kind of things because I love people and I love networking, and it's a way to meet new people. I always, when it was possible, I always went to those things, even if it was the smaller sponsorships, because you never know who you meet and what you learn from the night. So yes, I understand that you can't always touch base. I think right now, while it's a little bit quieter, although I think as of tomorrow, you're all probably going to be very busy putting things back in place. But, you know, try twice a month, just put it in your calendar to reach out. If you can't do a coffee, a phone call while you're driving to pick up a kid from a school or on your way home doesn't take that much. You were probably going to ring your sister or your husband anyway and tell them about your day. So why not ring your sponsor and tell them about your day? Just pick up the phone and ring them. And yeah, it doesn't have to be a detailed conversation where you discuss contracts every time. It is just touching base to understand and to show that you care. And I used to do little things like if someone says to me, I mean, this is what I'm like. If someone rings me on my birthday, I say, hello, it's my birthday. But if someone does that with me, I always make a note of it when it's their birthday. So the next year when it's their birthday, I ring them and say, hey, it's your birthday. And they'll go, how did you know? But yeah, even if someone else says to me, you know what, Lynette recently lost her dog. Yeah, just picking up on those little things and just texting you and say, hey, Lynette, I hear you've lost your dog. So sad, so sorry. Yeah, just those little things. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it goes a long way. And then when you do ask, you kind of have built that loyalty where they don't really want to say no to you. But make time, it's important. That's where a lot of your extra money comes from. It doesn't have to be detailed conversations, but just touch base now and then and just say, hey, how are you?
Cool. Thank you. Kate from Suburbs New Zealand Cricket had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about written sponsorship proposals and sort of how you start the conversation with them. I mean, do you recommend that almost an association has almost like a draft document that can just be tweaked for different people, or how do you sort of start that process? And if you do think written proposals are a good idea, do you have an example of one that's particularly successful that you could show us at some stage?
Okay, so any course that you do on sponsorship tells you not to have a standard written proposal. The sponsorship people hate it, but the reality is everyone has a standard written proposal, because the reality is also, especially if you're in companies like you guys are, that where you, like you've all listed before, do about 20 jobs that really in big companies one person do, you don't have the luxury of time to build different letters for different sponsors. So reluctant as I am to say that, yes, have a standard letter that you can tweak. The main thing I'll tell you is to do your research on a company before you then send them this letter, and also to make sure that you actually do change the company's names. I often got standard letters sent to me where people would, when I was, say, at ASB, people would say, hey, Mildy from ANZ, and I'm like, no, you know what, you should have changed that. Or people don't do their research. So when I was at Barton and Thompson, they're an Auckland only company. They've got a couple of branches in Northland, but they are not national. But people would call me and say, sponsor this event in New Plymouth. And I go, well, no, I'm not going to. And sometimes people even got quite shitty because we wouldn't go out to New Plymouth to do their event. And I'm like, but did you do your research? Did you see the company, their whole audience is Auckland? So no, New Plymouth isn't in the research. So if you're going to do a standard letter, just do me the favor of checking that you've changed the name to the company that you're sending that particular letter to, and do your research. I will in my course touch on that. Is there a right or a wrong way? Not really. You need to keep the letter fairly brief, and you ask fairly brief and explain why you need the money. Maybe a paragraph on who you are and what you do. And then, you know what, we need sponsors. We are trying this year to achieve going to nationals, and for that we're going to need to hire a bus, and this is going to cost us this much. Would you please consider XYZ to be a sponsor? And if you need any more information, reach out. Sometimes people send whole packs, and I think that's a waste of your printing material and your time to put together. If people are interested, they'll ask for more information. So be prepared to give them more information if they ask, but keep the ask fairly basic, especially if it's just for $1,000 or $500. Be clear on what you want, why you want it, and what you need to do with that money. And the main thing is send out the letters, but try and follow up with a phone call if at all possible. It's not always possible, I realize that, but if at all possible, try and follow up with a phone call, or even start with a phone call and say, hey, can I send you a letter to look at? It really makes people look at it, especially if it's bigger companies where you get up to 10, 20 proposals on your desk a day. The ones where people actually ring you means you'll look at those. If it's people that just keep sending you proposals, you get to a point where you just go delete. I just don't have time to look at it. So a phone call in this instance does go a long way, especially if you know it's a company that might be keen or should be keen, because there's absolutely a gem in there to get their exposure out to your audience.
Cool, thank you, Modi.
So I have a question, sorry.
Yeah.
What would you recommend you put in your sponsorship packs? If you were to give something, because with us, we talk about sport waitakere and what it is, and we try to relate. Is there anything else that we should or shouldn't be putting in?
They need to know who your audience is and how many people you can reach. And you guys need to think wider. I'm not saying you don't, but think wider than just the kids that show up to play soccer on a Saturday. Because they obviously your obvious audience, but the parents, the grandparents, those people are gems. So when you reach out to someone, they will want to know, okay, if I give you $2,000, how many people can I reach and what kind of people can I reach? So typically say to them, look, we've got soccer players ranging from 5 to 18. There's about 600 of them, but we also on a Saturday see siblings and parents and grandparents. On average, 400 of them show up. So this means weekly our potential audience that you can reach is X amount. And it doesn't have to be, they're not going to stand there and do a head count, but you'll know more or less how many people you have come to all the games. And then your referees, your volunteers, add those people in, because they're powerful for your database and for your audience numbers. So sponsors do like to see that. They do want to know, okay, if I give you the money, how many people am I reaching first of all, and then the kind of people that I'm reaching. Because you might be reaching out to, say, a retirement village at Midlife Care, and they'll go, well, I'm not interested in 5-year-olds playing soccer. But if you can say to them, look, here's some photos of the grandparents on the field, and there's normally at least 200 grandparents every Saturday, then suddenly now it's something they're interested in looking at, because they are desperate to reach those older people. So audience segmentation is one of your most important things. And then be very clear on why you need the money. If it's for a specific project, people like owning a project. They like saying, oh, my $2,000 got them a new minivan, or my $2,000 got them new hockey sticks for the whole first 15 team or something. People like being able to own a whole thing. It's not always possible, and then you end up with 10 logos on a shirt. It's not always possible to own one thing, but if you can, let them own something. Sometimes you don't actually need the $2,000 to buy 5 new iPads, but let them think that's what you're doing with the money, because ultimately your business needs to buy 5 new iPads. The $2,000 will go maybe into your new garden, but if they can say, and it's part of the story they're telling is that we got 5 new iPads so that the referees can do online tracking on the field or whatever, I'm making this up. Sponsors like owning a project because it gives them a story to tell, and it gives them ownership of something that they've contributed to your club. So even though physically the money is not necessarily going to that specific thing, I hope it makes sense that you kind of make them believe that that's where their money goes, so that they can tell the story of, you know what, we contributed this to the club.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful part, right? And just leveraging what you can give, and what impact it has. And I guess something that I've Mildy's made reference to a couple of times is your database, and how you can make sure that your database is up to date and up to speed. And if you can say that you've got X amount of parents or whatever it is, it's just it gives you that reach, and they're like, well, we can tap into these new markets that potentially they may not have beforehand. So we've got about 6 minutes. Anyone else with anything else?
Feel free to email me if you have more questions. I'm very happy to answer it. I've got time at the moment. So really, if you think of something else later, use this opportunity while I've got time to pick my brain, and I'll see if I can help you. And who knows, if you bribe me with a coffee or wine, I can even pop in and have a chat to you.
So there you go. She's given you a finger. Now it's your time to take the hand.
White or red? Just asking.
white, but not Sav, please.
There you go. That's great work. So thank you everyone for turning up. Just I guess a couple of things from us from a Sport Waitakere perspective. You know, once again, thank you to Mildy for giving up your time, for coming up and you know, helping us out again. Mildy was meant to come and do a big workshop in front of everyone and stand in front of everyone like she likes, but unfortunately COVID but you know, cancel that on us. But we managed to get her on your screen. So and from a Sport Waitakere perspective, if you haven't already, the Community Resilience Fund, make sure you apply. If you've got any questions regarding that, make sure you reach out. Active offering a financial forecasting support. So one of their accountants will work for 40 hours with your club to make sure to get you onto Xero and do some financial forecasting. So if that is something of interest to you, make sure you reach out to them. And yeah, so and make sure you keep up to date on the Club Leaders Network Facebook group. And we put heaps of info up there, and anything new and interesting will be up on there. So once again, thank you, Mildy, and thank you everyone else for turning up. And obviously Lynette's shared one of Mildy's great jokes here, so I'm going to finish off with that. What do you call a dinosaur with an extensive vocabulary? Thesaurus. That's a great
There's way better ones than that.
Yeah, okay. A man is found guilty of overusing commas. The judge warned him to expect a really long sentence.
There's some really cool ones there. It will keep you entertained. It will give you a dinner party joke to tell.
I'm totally entertained. Hey, David, can I just ask everybody that's here, would they be, maybe we could have just a quick chat, who would be interested in keeping this going? What sort of topics? What was the last thing that you said? Because I thought, we should ask everybody.
And what time works for everyone?
Okay, well, can I just get hear from people? Because this was really awesome, Mildy. Kate.
I would definitely be up for these. I think we all got a little bit zoomed out over lockdown, and we were getting inundated with so many meetings. But if we picked pertinent topics and maybe once a month had a catch up, that would be fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in. It's cold, it's winter. I'd rather do one of these than have to go out for a meeting. And there's always topics that pop up. So maybe we can just email in when we think of something and see what you guys can come up with.
Yeah, so is everybody on the Facebook page? Because that's where all that information's going on. Yeah, I can see Joe's nodding. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so maybe we could just keep asking people what they want, and you could add into the comment section or something, would be good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we can definitely get that going. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening, and if you haven't had dinner, then off you go to have dinner, and we will we'll catch up with you all very soon.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye. Bye.
See you guys.